Hello everyone, welcome to the discussion on solutions for Mains 2019 paper. This series is presented to you by Grace IAS. My name is Munish Bansal and today we are going to discuss the first question of the GS1 paper. This question was about Gandhara Arts. The question is, highlight the Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian elements in Gandhara Arts. Now, in this video, I am going to give you multiple points, multiple ways on how to write your introduction, multiple ways on how to write the conclusion, and multiple points which could be written in the body part. You obviously don't have the space to write all these points in your answer sheet. But I am giving you all these points so that you could increase your own knowledge base and you could choose whatever you like in your answer. Let's start with the introduction. In the introduction, you could write either you could write what is Gandhara art, or you could write when it started and where is it present. So you essentially in introduction part you have not started answering the question per se, but you are telling the examiner that you have some specific knowledge, specific detailed knowledge on Gandhara arts. One way of writing the introduction is this: Gandhara art represents the art form that developed and spread in northwestern part of India from 1st century BC to 4th century AD. The major centers of activity were cities including Jalalabad, Bamiyan, Takshila and Peshawar. So in this way, in this small introduction, you have been able to tell that which are the regions where Gandhara art is present. It is present in the northwestern part of India. And what was the time when Gandhara art started? It was in 1st century BC to 4th century AD, and you have also told some of the major cities in which Gandhara art is present. The other way of writing the introduction is by this: the Gandhara school of arts had developed its 1st century AD along with Mathura school during the reign of Kushan Emperor Kanishka. It is an amalgamation of Hellenistic, Roman, Iranian and indigenous art. So the empire of Kushans, and especially Kanishk, was a very big empire, and two of the capitals of this empire, one was Mathura and the other one was Peshawar. Peshawar is in the Gandhara region. You can write this introduction as well, and this is very appropriate for this question because you are also telling that Gandhara art is essentially an amalgamation of multiple art forms such as Hellenistic, Roman. Hellenistic is nothing but Greek art which is present outside Greek. Hellenistic, Roman, Iranian and indigenous art. Now we move on to the body part. I am going to give you two diagrams. You can use any of these diagrams in your answer as per your convenience, but the idea in culture questions is that if you don't know much of the content in the culture question, then you try to make diagrams, because it will look good in your answer sheet and it will help you fetch more marks. So this is the first diagram in which you are telling, this is called a hub and spoke model. So basically you make a diagram and you are giving a lot of information. Here in this diagram you are telling what are the major features of Gandhara arts. The first point is Apollo-like face, youthful and strong appearance. The sculptures which are present in Gandhara art forms had Apollo-like face and the appearance was very youthful and very strong. Second is, it was influenced by Roman mortuary art. Mortuary art are arts such as tombs. These are present in Rome, and Gandhara art is heavily influenced by this Roman mortuary art. The divine attribute, the third point is that the divine attribute and the decorative elements which are present in the Gandhara art are taken largely from Hellenistic and Iranian roots. Then the material which is used in making Gandhara art is grey schist, slate and stucco. Then you can also, the next point is that before Gandhara art, the representation of Buddha was in the form of symbols. It is from the Gandhara art that Buddha's representation started in human form. So it was the first structural representation of Buddha in human form. And finally you can tell that one of the features of Gandhara art is that it focused on anatomical accuracy. It focused on naturalism. And that is why the sculptures of Gandhara art look so real. You can make this diagram or you can make this diagram, either of these diagrams could be made. In this diagram, you are telling that which is the region which constitute the Gandhar region. You need to understand that Gandhar region is not the only region where Gandhar art is present. Though it is named after the Gandhar region, and because Gandhar region is very special as it is on the cultural crossroads. Here multiple trade routes are present, such as the Uttarapath and the Silk Route, and multiple foreign powers had political stand in this region. So in this diagram you are telling a lots of information and telling that you know which region constitute the Gandhar region, and from why is Gandhar art such a unique art in which there is influence of multiple cultures. While writing the answer, you might be knowing lots of information, but it is important that you structure your answer. So basically, the question is asking the elements of Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian in the Gandhar art. You might know 8 to 10 points, but instead of writing these 8 to 10 points directly, it is always better that you divide your points in some structure, so that the examiner would get to know that you have covered the answer in a much more holistic and exhaustive manner. So I have divided the answer in 3 parts. The first is ideology, the second is themes and material, and third is time. Let's start with the ideology part. Like I've already told, the representation of Buddha was earlier done in the way of symbols, but it is through Gandhar art, and it is because of the influence of the Greco-Bactrian culture and the Central Asian culture that the representation of Buddha started in the human form. Moreover, the second point is that it was during the time of Kushan period when the 4th Buddhist Council happened, and it is in the 4th Buddhist Council when the bifurcation of Buddhism into Mahayana and Enyana happened. So basically, it was in the time of Gandhar art, the time when Gandhar art was flourishing, that Mahayana form was accepted and the concept of Bodhisattva was accepted. So this is also heavily influenced by the Greco-Bactrian and Central Asian cultures. We move on to the themes and material heading. Despite we all know that the most of these sculptures in Gandhar art are of Buddhist tradition or of Lord Buddha, but there are some Hellenistic sculptures of Greek deities as well, like Apollo, Zeus, Athena. They also survive. It shows that there was influence of foreign cultures as well. Then in many images of Buddha, it was seen that Buddha was being protected by a Greek god like Hercules. You can write this point also. The idea of intellectual imbibition of Buddha was taken from Greek. Some of the symbols which show the intellectual growth of Buddha, or that Buddha was intellectually much more evolved, is a halo behind his head, the mudra of Abhaya Mudra, and the top nod on the head of Buddha. Then there were bacchanalian scenes. Bacchanalian scenes is the scenes of wine making and wine drinking, and especially grape wine. These scenes are also depicted in Gandhar art forms. Now grape wine, this idea is largely influenced by the Greek culture, where grapes are grown and wine is cultivated. The material which is used in Gandhar art is stucco plaster. It was commonly observed in Greek art and widely used in Gandhara art as well for the decoration of monastic and cult building. So even the material is heavily influenced by these cultures. Now we move on to the third heading, which is time. In the Gandhar art, the Buddha is depicted as a man god, which is nothing but an inspiration of Greek mythology. We can also say that it is the first structural representation of Buddha in human form. The style of Gandhar art is of naturalism. The drapery has this emphasis on perfection of human form. The whole Gandhar art always focus that the anatomical accuracy is maintained. Then we also see wavy curled hair of Buddha, sandals, and Apollo-like face and sharp features. These are also heavily influenced by Greek culture and Central Asian culture. So all these points could be written in the body part. Obviously I have told you multiple points and you choose whatever points you feel more comfortable with and you think that you can write in the limited answer sheet space. Now we move on to the conclusion part. In the conclusion, you can answer either of these two questions. What is the importance of Gandhara and or how it impacts other art forms? So you can write in the conclusion part that the time of Indo-Greek, Kushan and even post-Kushan period can be read through Gandhara art. It will help us understand what was happening in the society, economy and culture of that period. So in this way you are telling that Gandhara art and study of Gandhara art is very important. You can also write that Gandhara art in turn influenced various indigenous forms, art forms like Mathura, Sarnath school of art and even Hindu art forms. So basically you are telling that yes, Gandhara was influenced by multiple cultures, but in turn Gandhara also influenced some other cultures like Mathura school, Sarnath school of art and even some Hindu art forms. Thus, in spite of all the foreign influence, it forms an integral part of the Indian art and culture. I have given you enough content to write this answer and now I am showing you one answer which I have written by using all this content and all this methodology. You can also read this answer to understand how any good answer on UPSC questions could be written. You can pause the video and read the answers for yourself, or you could download the PPTs whose link is given in the description.